ಇಟ್ಟಿರು ಈ ಕೈ ಕೊಟ್ರ ಅಲ್ಲ
ಸ್ಲೈಡ್ ನಂಬರ್ ಹೇಳಿ
ಸ್ಲೈಡ್ ನಂಬರ್ ಡಿಲೀಟ್ ಮಾಡಿರೋದು ಮಾತ್ರ ಅಲ್ಲ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಬೇರೆ
ಎಡಿಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ದೀರಾ? ಓಕೆ ಮಾಡಿ.
ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಬೆಟರ್ ಕಾಣಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದೆಯಾ? ಡೌನ್ಲೋಡ್ ಮಾಡಿ ನಾನು ಬಂದು ಚೇಂಜ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ.
ಡೌನ್ಲೋಡ್
Shall we start the session?
विक्की जी
Yes sir. जी सर.
हाँ मैडम आ गए ना?
भव्या मैम आ गए हैं.
और डायरेक्टर सर आ गए. डायरेक्टर सर से पूछिए, स्टार्ट कर सकते हैं क्या?
नहीं सर, डायरेक्टर सर अभी नहीं आया।
Okay.
Start the video.
Morning, ma'am.
Very good morning, Bhavya madam.
Good morning, Bhavya ma'am.
Good morning. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Good
Shall we
morning.
start the session, ma'am?
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
Ma'am, shall we start the session?
Yeah, sure.
Good morning, madam.
A very warm good morning to all our participants and especially our guest for today, Dr. Bhavya K. Bairy, ma'am. Ma'am, we once again welcome you on behalf of the SAGE Group and SIRT Pharmacy to this day 3 of AICTE sponsored short-term training program. We welcome you, ma'am. Before proceeding forward, I would like to take the privilege to introduce our participants with Bhavya ma'am. Dr. Bhavya K. Bairy ma'am is a consultant psychiatrist and assistant professor of psychiatry at Nimhans Digital Academy, Department of Psychiatry at Nimhans, Bangalore. Bhavya ma'am has completed her MBBS from KMC Manipal and her MD in psychiatry from SDM Medical College, Dharwad. She did her senior residency from St. John's Medical College, Bangalore. She is actively involved in conducting online training courses in the blended training platform. Her areas of interest include perinatal mental health, de-addiction, stress management, and consultancy, liaison psychiatry. Once again, I welcome you, ma'am, on behalf of the SAGE Group and SIRT Pharmacy. Now with this, I would like to hand over the audio to you. Welcome, ma'am.
A very good morning to all of you. So today we'll be discussing a bit about personality, the various types of personality, as well as the personality disorders briefly. Okay, so let's just wait for the slides to be. Okay, all of you are able to view my slides right now?
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, okay. So So before I start, we would be sticking on to a few rules for today's presentation. Please log in using your name and place as your login ID. And it would be good for us to interact with each other, discuss this topic. So I would request you to all participate by your video on. Make sure you have a good room set up so that you're visible to everybody. Mention your name, state name, and location of facility from where you've logged in before speaking. When you're not speaking, please keep your sound mute. Avoid distracting noises, side conversations as the session is in recording. Also, please keep your phone on mute whenever you're unmuting yourself so that there's no extra disturbance. If you have any questions to ask, you can either manually raise your hand or you can use the raise hand button in Zoom to ask or clarify any doubts. Make sure you speak with adequate volume and clarity. Please show mutual respect by actively listening to each other. If possible, let's keep the questions towards the end. And I request you not to keep putting messages in chat because it will distract all of us. So questions can be taken in the end. However, at any point, if you feel that you're not able to follow what I'm telling, you can always stop me in between, ask me to explain again, and then we can go ahead. Okay. So the outline of today's presentation, first we'll be discussing what is personality. Then we'll be seeing the difference between these terms along with temperament and character and its components. We'll be then seeing the theories of personality, the various ways by which the theories have been formed. Then we'll be briefly seeing the personality types. Lastly, we'll be going into the personality disorders, the definition, clusters and types of personality disorders. How do we evaluate and a management approach to these personality disorders? And what are the associated disorders and complications which happen due to personality disorders? So now let's go back etymologically how this word personality came. It was from the Latin word persona that this word came. And initially it was being used by actors. The mask which the actors wore while they wanted to change their appearance, उस situation से ये persona word use होके personality word आ गया. And then initially it used to be used more in the context of actors or the filmmakers while we were talking about their external appearance, how they talk, how they walk, so their mannerisms. So more towards an outward appearance of an individual. तो उस सिचुएशन पे पर्सनालिटी वर्ड यूज हो रहा था एंड इवन टिल डेट सम ऑफ देम यूज इट स्टिल कि इसका एक अच्छा पर्सनालिटी है, अच्छा बिल्ट है. सो मोर इन टर्म्स ऑफ अ फिजिक ऑफ एन इंडिविजुअल और एन एक्सटर्नल अपीयरेंस. बट व्हेन वी टॉक साइकोलॉजिकली, this is not the right use of the word personality. So when we talk of personality, it is the totality of one's behavior, which is towards oneself as well as towards others. And it includes both overt and covert behavior. Overt is our outer behavior, what others see. And covert is our inner behaviors, what is hidden within us, which we don't show all the time, which comes out very rarely or may not come out at all. It's what we know about ourselves. So a totality of all this, a blend of all this together constitutes what is called as personality. And it is driven by various psychological forces which makes people unique themselves. तो हर एक आदमी का ये एक पहचान है. It's a unique concept to each individual. No two individuals are considered alike. Even if they are identical twins, their personality is not the same. So it's something very unique of each of us. So it is the characteristic manner in which one thinks, feels, behaves, and relates to others, that is, to his surrounding environment. So some of the famous definitions describe personality as a set of psychological traits and mechanisms within an individual which are organized, and once it is formed by adulthood, it is usually enduring. एक बार जब हम उसको imbibe करते हैं, it stays with us for very, very long. And this influences his or her interactions and adaptations to our own intrapsychic as well as our physical and social environments. Okay. And it is also defined as a collective perception, emotion, cognition, motivation, and action of an individual that interact with various situations. So how we perceive things, how do we show our emotions? Cognition respects to our thinking processes. Motivation, how we take things in life, how we move towards doing something, our motivation levels. And our actions in terms of various behaviors that we show. So all this together constitutes what is called as personality. Now, coming to certain things that we need to know about personality, it is unique and specific. Each of us have individual characteristics which make it unique. It is something which is in our self-consciousness. We don't talk about personality in animals, a dog ka personality, cow ka personality, no. It is something which is very unique to human beings. And also, we describe it when somebody has grown to an age to take decisions, to make judgments, to think independently. So we talk about it once somebody turns into an adult. So the formation of personality happens throughout our childhood and adolescent period. And by the time we become an adult, it is formed. After that, nobody can change it. It is very, very difficult. However, it is considered as a dynamic event also. We always tend to evolve every day, but the main characteristics that we hold on to will not leave us once we turn an adult. So it is all about a person, his affective component, his cognitive component, like how he thinks, acts, behaves in various situations. And it doesn't include just conscious component. Whatever runs in our mind subconsciously and unconsciously also contributes to our personality. So it's a blend of various biological and social characteristics. So what is the biological here? So certain personality characteristics are known to run in families. So there is a heredity component also to it. But in a family also, if you see, not all family members are 100% alike. It also depends on the environment. So it's like a gene environment interaction. So in the same family, if one child is brought up more in a hostel and one child is brought up more at home, they end up growing to different kind of individuals because their environment in which they grew up, their peers, their teachers would have influenced the child in the hostel. Whereas at home, it would be the parents, the siblings. So there is a lot of difference that happens even because of the influence of environment. It's a dynamic concept. There's a continuous process of change and modification. So as we live with different kind of people, our personality evolves. But what I told you again is the main imprints which form cannot be changed. It's an end product of learning and acquisition. So all of us learn throughout life. There is no end to learning. Sometimes we learn from our parents. Once we have children, we learn from our children. So there is chance of learning and our personality keeps changing accordingly. And it is also determined by the individual motivation to move towards his goal. So that also the lifestyle we lead or how we behave day-to-day basis towards moving towards our goal also becomes a part of our personality. Some of us are defined as hardworking, high performers, want to go to greater heights day by day. This also describes a person's personality. Now, how is this different from what we call as temperament? So temperament is the genetic component that I was talking about. So it is the biologically hardwired or the genetic aspects of the personality. It's a biological predisposition to respond with approach or withdrawal to one particular stimuli. So this is something which sometimes is beyond our control. It is what is there with us since our birth. And Cloninger has described the components as novelty seeking, harm avoidance, reward dependence, and persistence. So why don't we see each one of it a bit in detail? So what is novelty seeking? It is that component of our temperament, which is the tendency to respond with approach to a novel stimuli and boredom to familiar stimuli. So it is our inner tendency to go towards our curiosity, to go towards something new and get bored with something old. So this is what is novelty seeking, search for new stimuli. Second is harm avoidance, tendency to avoid aversive experiences. So once we have a bitter experience with something, we tend to avoid it. So certain people will not tend to take any risk beyond that, whereas some people will try for a second time regarding the same thing. So the amount in which this harm avoidance is there within us determines this, whether we will go towards a risk again in life or consider it as an aversive experience and stay away from it. Next is reward dependence. So the tendency to perform those behaviors that lead to an obvious reward. It's like how we bribe children, like you do this, I'll give you a chocolate. Similarly, if you see human beings, if there is a direct reward involved, like for example, you do this, you will be paid this. When there is a direct relationship with the reward, the tendency of that behavior will be more in certain individuals, whereas some of them will be pursuing persistence. How is this different? Tendency to persist in a task even in the absence of immediate reward. Like I may not be getting something immediately out of it, but in the long term run, this is going to take me somewhere. So some individuals believe more in this. So these four characteristics will be there in different amounts in different individual. Like for example, some people will be more of novelty seeking, more of reward dependence, and less of persistence. Whereas some others will be more of harm avoidance and persistence and less of reward seeking. So it's a blend of these components which make us individually different. So now to explain this, let me take example of alcoholism. So in same Cloninger has described alcoholism as type 1 and type 2 alcoholism. So some of my patients commonly ask me that if the father is alcoholic, is there a rule that the child will be also alcoholic in future when he grows up? So this common question we come across, especially the wives are worried if the husband is consuming alcohol, what if my boys who grow up will consume alcohol in the future? So one concept of this can be explained by Cloninger's theory, that is type 1 alcoholism and type 2 alcoholism. So type 1 alcoholism is where people start consuming alcohol after the age of 25 years. It's usually due to stress, anxiety, depression. So some other psychological component causing the substance taking behavior. So when they're growing up in responsibility, as they become older, once they have family, children, the added stress, balancing family and workplace, everything together makes them stressed, and they may start substance intake after the age of 25 years. However, there is another group which we call as type 1 alcoholism, type 2 alcoholism, where the people start consuming alcohol at less than 25 years of age. Early onset alcoholism. So what is the difference here is the type 2 has been seen to be male predominant, and studies have also shown that there is a very, very high genetic component. Family history is definitely positive, more of parental alcoholism and more of antisocial behavior seen in such families. So they go in for spontaneous alcohol seeking, and their approach here is novelty seeking, which I was discussing with you. In search of new stimuli, they go in for substance use very, very early. Okay, this is type 2 alcoholism. Whereas type 1 alcoholism is more of environment related, less of genetics, more of environment here. And usually it is for harm avoidance and high reward dependence. This characteristics are seen in these individuals more commonly. So this is how the temperament makes a person prone for substance abuse. So the chances of when the substance abuse may start depends on this. Next, the next concept we need to see is character. So character can be described as those aspects of personality that are shaped by the results of life experiences. So it may be our own, it may be our family's life experiences, or what we hear say, or the social environment in which we are. We learn from what our friends go through daily in their life, or the cultural norms. All these influence a character, the component of character. So again, Cloninger has described this as in three terms, that is cooperativeness, self-directedness, and self-transcendence. So our ability to collaborate with others for a task completion, how well we are able to do it, is what determines cooperativeness. So you may see in your workplace, some of them are very, very cooperative with whatever you want to do, whereas some of them tend to stay away. Okay, you do your work, I'm not going to get involved with this. तो इस तरह हर आदमी का कॉपरेटिवनेस लेवल अलग होता है, which determines our character. Second is self-directedness. How much motivated we are to move towards our goal. How much we are able to set ourselves towards it, how we are able to put our targets and how we work towards our targets is what is self-directedness. And self-transcendence is where we are able to go out of our immediate environment and reach higher and higher goals. Okay, so these three together is what forms the character. So character plus the temperament, a blend of this is what together forms a personality. Now we'll have a quiz. I ask
Yeah, sure,
Priyanka
ma'am.
is online. Priyanka, can you share the first quiz question?
Okay, ma'am. Okay, ma'am.
Yeah, it's here on the screen as well, but you can put your votes in the poll. So identify the false statement. This is whatever we've discussed till now, just to, pull you back if you're getting distracted or to see if you have understood whatever I've discussed till now. So personality is the manner in which one thinks, feels, behaves, and relates to others. Temperament is the genetically based component of personality. Character means aspects of personality that are shaped by life experiences. Cooperativeness, self-directedness, self-transcendence are components of temperament. So which of the following is false? So once you've understood these three terms, we can go ahead with the next discussion. How many votes?
32.
It's anonymous voting. Please put whatever you've understood from what we discussed till now. Okay, another 10 seconds, then you can stop and share the screen. Okay, please stop and share the results of the poll.
Okay, ma'am.
So majority are with us. So the wrong one is the last one, that is the cooperativeness, self-directedness, and self-transcendence. These are all parts of character, not temperament. In temperament, we saw novelty seeking, high reward dependence, and the other two were novelty seeking, harm avoidance, reward dependence, and persistence. So these were the four things that we saw with temperament. So this is the wrong answer. So now let us see. I want to just check how many of you, you might have commonly heard some people are type A personality, type B personality, all this. So let us just have a quiz on this right now. So which type of personality do you think you fit into? So I request you to share the second poll.
Okay, ma'am.
So before we get into the discussion of these types, I just want to know how much you all know about this. So just, where do you analyze yourself as?
Some options are being repeated in the poll
Yeah,
question.
why is so? It's not multiple. I mean, it's a single answer actually. Something has gone wrong with options
So I
that
would
you
like to tell the participant that option A is for type A, option B is for type B, option C is for type C, D is for type D, and option E is for type X. So
Maybe you
these
can set this right in the next question, please, so that this error doesn't repeat. We're going to ask this question again later, right? So
yes,
maybe
ma'am.
you can just set it right there and put the right options there, and don't allow them to give multiple answer.
For the time being, if you feel participant can write in the chat A, B, C, D, E, A, B, C, D.
But it would be difficult to calculate it, sir. So I don't think it will work out.
Yeah.
So we'll just leave this for now. Let's understand this better and come back to this question. Meanwhile, you can correct this question. Okay. So what I see right now is majority have put type C, but I think we have not got the correct results here. So we'll understand these concepts better and come back to this. That would be better. So now I would be discussing some important component, what we call as the theories of personality. So this concept is there since ancient Indian literature, where you might have all heard of Vat, Pitta, Kapha. So if based on the biological composition of our body, like what is more predominant, if it is bile predominant, it would be called as Pitta. If it was wind predominant, more of Vata. And if it was mucus predominant, more of Kapha. So these concepts were later on used by Hippocrates, and he has described into 4 types. That is, if it is blood predominant as sanguine, if it is yellow bile predominant as choleric, if it is phlegm predominant as phlegmatic, and black bile predominant as melancholic. So let us understand these 4 types a bit more. So people who are called as sanguine are those people who are light-hearted, who are very optimistic, happy, hopeful in life, and very accommodating. तो ज्यादातर वो खुश रहते हैं. Whereas the second type, that is the choleric type, the yellow bile predominant, are those people who are very angry, irritable. However, they are also passionate, strong-minded, and have active imagination. The next 3rd type, which is phleg or phlegmatic, in this, it is those people who are cold, calm, slow, sluggish, and quite indifferent from others. Okay, so those people who are not very proactive in things, wo zyada aage nahi aate hain. They do things at their own pace and they're not bothered much about the society and outside world. The last one is melancholic. These are the people who are bad-tempered, dejected, bahut udaas rehte har baar. They are very pessimistic and they are more involved about only self. They do not think much about others. So like this, 4 types were discussed by Hippocrates. So these first 2 were the types which was described based on what is more predominant component in our body. However, the next one, just go back to the previous slide. The next one, or next 2, were based on the build of our body, the physical structure of the body. So when we talk of Kretschmer's classification, the first one, that is picnic, was when somebody was very fat, and when it was more of the visceral bulk and less of the somatic component. And the second one was athletic, somebody who had a balanced body. Third one was leptosomatic, meaning somebody who is lean and thin, not very strong, very fragile. Okay, so it was seen that the people who were fat, the picnic ones, they were sociable, jolly, easygoing, good nature. So zyadatar again kush rehte the. The second one, that is athletic, who had a very good balanced body. They were the people who were energetic, optimistic, and they were adjustable to various circumstances in life. The third one, who were lean and thin, that is leptosomatic, it was grouped to those people who were unsociable, reserved, shy, sensitive, and very pessimistic about life. So after this, Sheldon gave similarly endomorphic, mesomorphic, and ectomorphic. And in this, the first one, endomorphic, was similar to the picnic variety seen before. It was fat people, and it was people who were easygoing, sociable, and affectionate towards life. Second one, mesomorphic, were those people who were active. They were very assertive about what they have to do in life. Kya karna hai, aage jana hai, risk lena hai. They were very adventurous about life. Whereas ectomorphic were those people who were pessimistic, unsociable, and very, very reserved. They wouldn't want to get involved much with the society. Then you must have heard of these terms, introvert and extrovert. This was given by Jung. So according to him, people who were more focused about very outgoing, very sociable, jolly types, whose energy in their life was more towards outside. वो outgoing लोग जो है, उसको extrovert बोलते थे. And if they were more focused about themselves, very reserved, and if their life's energy was driving more towards inwards, they were what we were calling them as introverts. Then came Friedman and Roseman. They did a study with a lot of doctors in studying coronary artery disease, and it was seen that they described people into two groups, type A and type B. Type A were those people who were having high stress levels and they were more prone for coronary artery disease. Whereas type B were those people who were little calm, easygoing, would not take tension easily, less stressed. And these were the people who were less prone for all these coronary artery related diseases. So this type A and B has been further studied and it has been divided into type A, B, C, D, which we'll be discussing shortly. So all these subtypes which we saw above were type approach of theories of personality. Yani, people had to be like either this, either this. Then what about people who were in between? If many of you saw these types, you might have not been able to put yourself into one particular group. Sometimes we are like this, sometimes we are like that. Based on circumstances and based on situations, we are a blend of all of these. So that's where came the trait approach. A trait approach, what was done is, using a dictionary, a couple of psychologists sat down, they wrote down all words from the dictionary, which were related to human actions, behavior, and characteristics. And it came out to be about 16,000 words. And then they deleted all the synonyms, words which meant the same. It brought it down to 4,500 characteristics of a person. So this was trait approach. So analyzing so many characters becomes difficult. That's when came the type and trait approach, a combination of both. So then these traits, the 4,500 traits were further grouped and put into like, okay, somebody is happy, optimistic, some similar characteristics together, and it was made as a 5-dimensional model, which we'll be seeing shortly. So first person to give this was AICTE, who divided it into introversion, extroversion, neuroticism, and psychoticism. So introversion and extroversion we already discussed. Neuroticism is somebody who is more prone for anxiety. They have a kind of anxiety within them throughout. And psychotism are those group of people who are very suspicious. Any particular situation, they'll be like, okay, something is wrong over here. This is not okay. If somebody does something good with good intention, still they'll think, no, something is wrong here. Why they should do good to this person? There's some other extra motive. So like this, they are suspicious in every situation. And they do not believe people easily. That is what is psychotism. Then came, you must have all heard of Sigmund Freud, who's done a lot of research and his psychoanalytic theories, psychosexual developmental theories are very, very famous. So he gave the concept of id, ego, and superego. So again here, the term ego is used very loosely. Isko ego hai, usko ego hai. Actually, ego is something good. It is self-respect. It is id and superego, which are the other two extremes. If we are very submissive, if we agree to somebody easily, we do not think about ourselves whether what we're doing is right or wrong, just follow blindly without even taking a proper judgment, that person is said to be more of id spectrum. Superego. I am the boss. I am dominant. What only I can think right. If very dominant character is there, that is what is superego. So ego is something which is a balance of both. At times, when situation requires being submissive, but at times having your own self-respect and moving according to your judgment. So all of us need to have this ego to some extent. So this was what was given by Freud. So these components of id, ego, superego are there in us in different levels. Some of us are superego predominant. Some of us are id predominant. So that is what defines individual personality was what Sigmund Freud told. And this gets framed by various stages of psychosexual development. So when somebody is a baby, it is more of oral phase. That's why you see the kid getting pleasure by sucking the thumb, by breastfeeding. So all the ways of getting sexual pleasure for a baby is through the oral route. Slowly it goes to anal development, where it's more related to the bowel habits. Then it goes to the genital phase. Then it goes to a latency phase. And as adults, we develop the phallic phase, which means engaging through intercourse and getting sexual pleasure. So this develops only by adulthood. So each of us pass through each of these stages, and during these stages of psychosexual development, our personality gets formed. So this was the concept which was given by Sigmund Freud. After Freud gave this concept of taking sexual urges as the motive for personality development, Adler was a person who disagreed with this, and he gave individual approach of personality development. So he gave importance to individual lifestyle and striving towards goal as the main concept of personality development. So this was a newer theory that came in. So like this, lot of people have given various theories of personality, and this concept has been evolving over time. So right now, what is the most accepted is a blend of the trait and type approach. So we cannot divide into like only these types. Okay, you cannot fit a person into one particular type. It's a blend of all of these is what we need to understand. So this is our understanding of personality theories. So now we'll go into the 5-factor model, which I just talked to you about, that the various traits were grouped into 5 dimensions. So this is very widely validated in psychology, and that 5 dimensions can be remembered as ocean. So O stands for openness. That is how open we are about our things, whether we are very secretive and cunning, or whether we are open-minded, open-hearted, and it's more approachable to others. People can easily understand us. This is what is openness of an individual. Second is consciousness. Consciousness stands for decision about doing right or wrong. So are we responsible? Are we motivated? All this is dependent on the consciousness. Second, the next one is the extroversion. How talkative we are, how sociable we are. That is one part of it. Versus somebody who is very silent, reserved, not very sociable, doesn't like to interact much with other people, tends to stay to himself. So that was the third component. Agreeableness. If somebody asks you to do something, agreeing with that person, this is very important component in workplace. If each one of them want to do whatever they want to do and do not agree with the others, it leads to a very chaotic. So a lot of companies, they do now personality assessments where they ask indirectly questions to assess all these personality traits, and accordingly they take individuals for recruitment. So this is a part of even company interviews right now, if you see. Then last one is the neuroticism. This is the emotional stability, whether we are composed or not, whether we are more anxious or we are calm. So this part is the last, that is N, neuroticism. So the various factors which were studied were divided into 5 these dimensions, and a combination of type and trait approach was the 5-factor model by Costa and McCrae. Now, I had asked you that question. So which type of personality do you think you belong to? So this is a summary slide of the 4 types, but we'll see each one a little more detail. So type A is what we call as the director. Type B is the socializer. Type C is the thinker, and type D is the supporter. So the main characteristic of director type is goal-oriented people. They are risk-taking and they are good under stress. However, it's very, very difficult to work with these people. The second type is socializer. These are the jolly type of people. उनके साथ रहेंगे तो आप भी खुशी रहेंगे, and they are always surrounded with people. बहुत सारे friends होंगे उनके. So relationship oriented, outgoing, enthusiastic. So all these people are type B. Type C is thinker, detail oriented. They want to do things stepwise, not little this side, that side. ऐसा नहीं जाना है, ऐसा नहीं जाना है, ऐसा ही जाना है. These are the type of people. And they are very, very logic, and they are very well prepared, and they will go by these norms, rules. They are very pakka with their rules. Is tarah ke log. And type D is supporter, task oriented, stabilizing, cautious. These are the main characteristics of these individuals. Okay. So let us see a bit of all these in little detail. So the type A personality is the go-getter, the director. And if you see in the Hippocrates type, these are the people who are choleric. They like to be in charge and in control of their lives as well as their environment, like people around them as well. They are not very detail oriented. They choose to delegate people for all these detailed work. They are very goal oriented, practical in their solutions, and they arrive at their solutions and goals, and this will entail no nonsense and bottom line approach. Yani, they will be focused towards only reaching that goal, and whatever comes in between, they do not give importance to unless they find it important. तो इस तरह के लोग को type A personality बोलते हैं. And again, we already saw that these are the people who have high levels of stress and they work well under stress, but at the toil of their own health. So coronary artery diseases are known to be very, very common in this group. All the metabolic disorders, high incidence of hypertension, diabetes, hypercholesterolemia, metabolic syndrome, heart diseases, all in this group of people. So a couple of strengths in them are, these are the people who embrace change, take charge, fast-paced. They are usually entrepreneurs, direct management style, very ambitious. They work well independently. They're not dependent on others for working. They're very passionate about their work. They demand maximum freedom and they're very dominant, but they have very good administrative skills and highly competitive, good delegation skills, like getting work done from people. They're very good at that, and they're good at multitasking. They can do many things simultaneously. However, they are not so popular because they are stubborn, they are workaholic, they are very impatient, and they take decisions abruptly, and they are very tough to work with. They get easily angered. Insensitive people, they do not get affected by emotions of others. They do not take any decisions emotionally. They're very ill-tempered, intolerant, and domineering. That's why they're not very, very popular. But these are the people who are usually the leaders of companies, who are able to see. Sometimes when you're a leader of a big institute, you need to be very tough. Otherwise, you will not be able to run the thing smoothly. Sometimes, there'll be a lot of people coming to take advantage of by using emotional reasons. So these people will not go by that, and they're usually very good. That is why the term director has been used for them. So the next group is the type B personality. These are the people who are relaxed and social. As I told you, they are socializers. So the sanguine, that is blood predominant type of Hippocrates, is the other name for this. They are very outgoing, energetic, fast-paced individuals. They like to be around people. They enjoy being the center of attention. They are good relationship builders, and usually most people like them. So if you think of all celebrities, they belong to this group. Their driving need is for approval. So they try to like everyone in hopes everyone will like them too. So there is a lot of expectation in them. They like compliments. They like to be acknowledged for their achievements. They just get pleased by words of admiration, and even applause from groups will be the most important thing that you can do for them. If you do that, they will do anything for you. Okay, so that group of people is the type B personality. So let's just see a bit of their strengths and weakness. So they're very enthusiastic, fun-loving, persuasiveness is seen, easily liked by most people, friendly, charismatic, idea person, usually gives ideas, okay, let's do like this, so comes up with new innovative ideas always. Motivator, dreamer, has big dreams in life, very light-hearted person, doesn't take unnecessary things to mind, very people-oriented person, and very spontaneous, faster paced, and self-confident. So these are the most characteristics or the strengths of these individuals. But they do have some, you may think, okay, such kind of people, where will they have weakness? They have a couple of weakness also. So they're too self-involved, may try to do too much at once. That much is not necessary. So sometimes you feel them, they're overdoing things. Sometimes they're very, very unrealistic. They get trouble being alone. They just can't be alone. Doesn't finish what was started. And they have very short attention span. Sometimes they can be very arrogant and cocky also, especially if their self-expectations are not met. Get easily bored. They want to do new things in life, and they get bored with the old routines. Very self-indulgent and prone to sweeping generalizations, and very impulsive. And they keep procrastinating about things that have gone wrong. That is one difficult thing with them. So the next one is the type C personality, melancholic. One common term used for them is perfectionist. So they stick to rules, they abide by rules, and they are thinkers, very, very detail oriented, like to be involved in things that are controllable and stable. They go by accuracy. and they take very rational decisions and logic decisions. And I told no emotional component involved. People who can't seem to control their emotions will bother them because these people believe being emotional makes objectivity difficult, and they do not go by emotional reasoning or decisions at all. They also dislike being around people who are full of hype, so they desire facts, accuracy, and logic. Other people's emotions never is a priority for them, so usually they go by facts and they let the chips fall where they may. So they are not bothered about what people talk about them. The emotional component doesn't make any difference to them. So these are the perfectionist group of people. So these people are very accurate with their work. They're very creative, dependable, imaginative. They're independent, detailed. They follow. If you see, many of the characteristics here are similar to the type A. Okay, so this and type A go little side by side, and type B and D go little side by side with certain differences. So these people play by rules. They are very organized, intelligent, analytical, critical thinker, quality control matters to them, and very, very thoughtful. Their weakness is that they worry a lot about progress. They appear very, very unsocial. Critical behavior is seen with them. They do not hesitate to comment if things not done according to their way. They like to do things their own way. There is a lot of detached behavior seen. That is, they believe in working independently and tend to keep away from people. Whereas the first one, their type A, we saw that they were good at delegating work and getting work done. Whereas here, if things not done their way, they will just keep people away and continue with their work. So that is the main difference between them. They can see the glass half empty. They are very pessimistic people. They are skeptical and disbelieving, may never have personal expectations met, and there is a lot of disengagement seen in them. So these are some of the weakness that we see with these people. So last, we'll see the type D personality. So D for distress. These people are very, very distressed. But however, they are supporters and they are phlegmatic type of Hippocrates classification. So these are the people who are slower, easier paced towards their work and in life in general. So they are not very well motivated people. They are people who move on very relaxedly. The repetition allows them to become very skilled in what they do. So the persistence component of the character is very, very high in them. They won't like if the rules change a lot, as that's contrary to their desire to minimize change and stick with what they know. This is what works. So they will learn things slowly, but they will be very persistent towards it once they learn the task. Even though the current way may be unpleasant, they worry that the unknown may be even worse. So that is why it is very difficult to modify their behavior. They will, whatever they stick to, they'll be like, let me go in this direction only. So they are the people who are not very flexible to change. And they have more tendency towards negativity. However, the positive aspects in them are they are very warm people, very peaceful on the outside, and they are sensitive to other people's emotions. And they have a very realistic view of life, and they like security. They take decision wherever they feel secure, and they love to help people and give advice, and they rarely give up in life. So they are very persistent and focused. So long-term run, these are the people who become real achievers later. But they often feel isolated, lonely, and negative about themselves, and they experience more negative emotions than others, but they'll never share these emotions to others. To outside people, they'll appear very calm, cheerful, composed, but from inside, they'll have a lot of negative emotions built up. So these people are the ones who are little prone for emotional disorders in life, like for example, for going into depression and developing anxiety disorders. They often worry and they might feel pessimistic and gloomy about life on certain occasions. So these are some of the most common characteristics. So they are caring and sincere, compassionate, calm, fair, unimposing. They are very approachable people, dependable. You can rely on them. They give you an appearance of strength, very trusting, not much of mood swings, easy to work with them, self-confident, reliable, consistent, observant, and if a routine is given to them, they will follow it well. But the weakness is that they'll not speak up, they'll not tell you when what is troubling them, easily used by others, going along when they don't agree also, They'll just follow whatever told. अगर उनको मन नहीं लगा तो भी उसको follow कर देंगे. They're very uncomfortable with constant change. They do not like change. Going along to avoid confrontations. They will not get argumentative with you. They are very less assertive. They will not say no easily. And they get hurt easily. They are very shy and resistant to change. So now we will do the same task again. But before that, yeah, there's one more question before the next quiz. So let's see this first. So requesting for the, I think the third question. So we discussed the ocean, which is the type and trait approach, where the various traits were grouped into 5 dimensions. So what does this stand for? So we discussed each one of these. Have you shared the poll? Vicky, are you there?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. We are just sharing,
Put
ma'am.
the poll question.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm just sharing. A minute, ma'am. I'm just sharing.
Meanwhile,
Yes,
you
ma'am.
can
I
also
have
see
launched
the
the poll.
question on the screen. Yeah, it's shared now.
Ma'am, shall I end the poll now?
Yeah, maybe another 10 seconds because we have 100 plus people logged in, whereas it's just reaching 50 now. Maybe another 10
Sure, ma'am.
seconds because the options are a little long to read, so let them take their time.
Sure, ma'am.
It's anonymous voting, so please do it. Do not get worried, we'll assess you or something. Just cast in your votes to whatever you feel is right. Last 5 seconds. Okay, good. At least more than 50% have responded. That's nice to see.
Some of the people are writing in the chat. You are requested to vote in this.
I know. Please, it's showing in your screen, right? The poll. Please vote in the poll because I can't read all the chat messages while talking. Okay, anyways, I think we'll end the poll now. Yeah, so glad that majority are with us and are attentive and following whatever I'm talking. So you can stop me if there are very, very difficult things that you didn't understand. However, discussion questions can be taken towards the end. So now we'll just, after we have discussed about the 4 types, can all of you please vote this again? And I hope this time the options are right, whatever you have set in. Please share the next question.
Sure, ma'am.
Yeah, this is perfect. Thank you. So we'll see what profile of people have logged in today. So basically one exercise of today's talk was to analyze your own personality. And if at all, after knowing the characteristics, maybe you should work on your weaknesses if you belong to a particular type, if at all you have those. Okay, come on, some more. Another 10 more at least. Again, this is anonymous. Don't worry, I'll not assess you by what you have voted. So you can just put in your votes. So we have maximum of socializers and perfectionists who have logged in today. That's nice to know. Okay, so I think you can end poll because last time also we got 65 votes only. So you can end and just share results. Yeah. So majority we have is type B and C. Okay. So now one question I have here is somebody voted for type X that I've put here, whereas I didn't discuss type X. So can the person who voted for X, can you please raise your hand or unmute and tell me why you voted for X and what do you know about this type X? The person doesn't want to reveal who type X is. Just one person, I think, voted for type X.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Or, okay, anybody wants to answer regarding what is this type X? Anybody has an idea? We saw A, B, C, D. I didn't discuss the X yet. So anybody has an idea about what is this X? You can just give it a try. Just raise your hands and give it a try.
Or either you can also write in the chat box. And I will read it.
If anybody writes in the chat box, please read it out for me, Vicky.
Ma'am, Sheetal has wrote that it's a mixed personality.
Okay.
Dr.
Okay.
Milan
We
has
have
wrote
somebody
that
raising hand. Let's give them a chance. Tenity. I see it as Tenity. I can't read the full name. Maybe you can just tell the full name and ask them to. Yes, please speak.
Nusrat Kashif from Bhopal. I'm a psychologist. The person who is not fit in A, B, C, and D, he can put herself, himself, and X personality.
Yes. See, I was telling you the same thing, right? See, we cannot put people into A, B, C, D. So you might have yourself found it very difficult to put yourself into just one of these. So Vicky, is it possible to relaunch this poll again for people to vote again, whether they want to change their mind from A, they want to stick to A, B, C, D that they gave, or do they want to put to X?
Sure, ma'am. I will relaunch
A
this.
blend of types. If you found it really difficult, should I put A, B, C, D? So that's where, we can relaunch the poll and see if how many, from 1, how much increase we see in X. If possible, just relaunch the poll. Yeah. Just put it. Okay. Maybe we'll wait till we reach 65, 70. Ten more, come on. Whoever voted last time can do it again. One last time. I won't put this again. I promise. Okay, 61 reached. 5 more who voted last time. Okay, I think we got more votes than last time. So we saw more voting for type X than last time, this time. So a lot of people from, I think, B and especially C moved to type X this time. So with this, we'll end this poll and go ahead. So now, so what is this type X personality? 2 or more personality types are equal in strength within a person. That person is considered as a type X personality. So if an individual has 2, maybe A and B in equal amounts, they're not able to define themselves as A or B, then we write it at AX and BX. So that means a blend of both. So very rare event, all four personality types, the person says is identical for them, which is usually very unlikely actually. So then it's called as simply as only type X. Okay, so probably all those who voted for X are actually not just X, they are AX, BX, this types. Okay, so X indicates a cross or an intersection of more types. Okay, so that is what it is. So now coming to the last 15-20 minutes of my talk is to create awareness about personality disorders so that they are easily identified, referred, helped, and treated. And they do not have to be like this throughout life. Okay. So this describes ways of thinking and feeling about oneself and others that significantly and adversely affect how an individual functions in many aspects of life. So this refers to those people who are dysfunctional or are causing either harm to themselves or others and spoiling the environment around them. They are not giving peace of mind to themselves nor others. So individuals with PD, they are seen as problematic person. You might have heard commonly, like in your office, this person is a problematic person. And, such people even get removed from their jobs, they are sacked from their work. So these kind of problems are seen, and those with difficulties in interpersonal relationships. So when you're working for an institution, all of us should incorporate agreeableness and cooperativeness, all these characteristics in us. Otherwise, it is difficult for us also, and it's difficult for the people who are working with us also. So these are the people who are seen either problematic people because they are not adjusting with others. They have interpersonal relationship issues. Okay. And if you see their entire life history, these are the people who are usually non-productive. They've not held on to a job. There's frequent changing of jobs seen in them. And they are not able to establish themselves in the long-term run. And there may be also those people who get involved into legal lawsuits, get into problem with the law, maybe other civil cases or criminal cases. And they usually tend to blame others for their lack of success, either their parents or siblings or the first company that they joined, that company spoiled my entire life, or their educational background. They find reasons to blame other things and are not able to take responsibility for their actions and behaviors throughout their educational life. So the definition as given by WHO are deeply ingrained and enduring behavior patterns, which manifest themselves as inflexible responses to a broad range of personal and social situations. So normally what I told you is we may have certain characteristics of our personality, but based on the situation, like for example, at home, we may be the pet to our parents. When we go to work, when we work under our boss, we should be able to be like an employee under our boss. Similarly, when we are with our friends, it is a different part of our personality that they know of. So those people who are not able to be flexible or modify their actions, behaviors, and show different types of personality in different situations. And those people, I'm going to be like this wherever I am. I'm not going to change. Whatever I do is right. If their approach is of this kind, those kind of people are whom we describe as personality disorders. So there will be severe disturbance in their characterological condition and behavioral tendencies. And this usually involve various areas of their personality, and it is usually reflected as personal and social disruptions in their life. Okay, so their personal life is also not good, and they do not allow their social life also to be good. So whoever come across them, they find it difficult to handle them. However, this what we talked about, the disorders, is the extreme group of people. The other, what we tell is what we call as personality traits. We may have a bit of something. For example, we'll see the definition first. So neuropsychic structures with the capacity to render many functions, stimuli functionally equivalent and to initiate guide equivalent forms of adaptive and expressive behavior. So there's some part of it might be there in us, but we'll not show it in all situations. We are able to somewhere modify our behavior. So it's a part of it may be there in us, but it is not an enduring pattern. It is not that we will show that behavior always. So enduring patterns of perceiving, relating to, and thinking about oneself and environment will be there here, but to an extent which is not as strong as the personality disorder. So this is something in between a flexible personality to a totally not flexible personality. So this is some traits. So you may be able to see some persons Okay, they have some anxiety traits. They may have some perfectionist traits, but they are not always stuck to only that. Not to an extent to a disorder where they will always show only that. Okay, so this is the difference between personality traits and personality disorder. Now, the rule of 3 P's for the personality disorder. One is pathological. It is not normal. They are not merely mild variants from normal. So traits, what I described, are actually variants from normal. But this personality disorders are pathological. They cause problems wherever they go. So that is the meaning of the word pathological, problem causing. Okay. Pervasive, that is, it will be present at all phases of their life. Even if you change the environment, if you change situation, still it will always be present. And it is persistent. It is continuous and stable over time. Today, tomorrow, day after, morning, evening, always present. That pervasive, in all situations it is present. Persistence is with respect to timeline. Today present, tomorrow present, they will not modify or bring about change in this. Okay. Second one is more related to environment. Third one is more related to time. So these 3 P's are the ones are the problem makers of these personality disorders. So it's full of P's everywhere, right? Personality disorders, problems, the 3 P's. Okay. So let's see how this develops. So it's not something that, one person becomes a personality disorder in one day or through one life instance. It's something which begins to shape in childhood. From the day one, how you shape that particular clay into an idol. Like that, every day there should be sculpturing happening. So the elders, the first teachers that we come across, that is parents at home, the other elders at home, and the initial teachers of the initial day life. And all these are the people who play very important role in developing an individual's personality. And once it reaches the late teens and early 20s, it is formed. Then it's very, very difficult to modify this. So a teacher who sees a child lying, a teacher who sees a child stealing things or making cunning plans, trying to put other person in trouble, all these are to be corrected then and there so that it doesn't get ingrained in that individual's personality. Whereas there are very, very rare instances where the personality can change even later in life. If somebody has had a head injury, an accident, and there was severe injury to the brain, or post-stroke because of severe epilepsy, continuous fits, there are a lot of neurological extra signals in the brain. In such instances, the personality can change even after somebody becomes an adult. And for personality disorders to develop, there will be strong biological and genetic components. So what we call as schizotypal, we'll be seeing it a little later. This particular type is known to be making people prone for schizophrenia. And this is known to be a genetic thing which runs in family. Similarly, borderline personality, somebody being emotionally unstable, blackmailing, threatening behaviors. I'll talk to you about this little later in detail. This also is known to run in family. So there are certain biological genetic component also associated with certain types of personality disorders. So sometimes people are more prone genetically, and if a suitable environment for such things to grow is provided, they will grow in that way itself. So let's see the various etiological factors. So whenever in psychiatry we talk about etiology, we talk about biological factors, we talk about social and cultural factors, and the psychological factors. So we talk about all these 3. So by biological, I already told you the genetic factors, the biochemical, which refers to the neurotransmitters in our brain. You might have heard of serotonin, dopamine, all these. So they are all the biochemical factors. Electrophysiological, all of you have heard of ECG, right? Similarly, there are brain discharges also that happen, brain activities also that happen, which is the study of electrophysiology. Structural brain changes, that is the changes in the frontal lobe, a particular part of the brain. So that is also associated with certain type of making the person prone for personality disorders. So these are all the biological factors. Second is the psychological factors. Sexual abuse in early childhood. what we call as CSA, child sexual abuse, is known to have very, very drastic effects on a child's development and can make them prone, for example, maybe an anxious personality, where they may not be able to indulge in sexual life throughout their life. Okay, neglected child of parents being either busy or parental marital conflicts where the child has been neglected throughout. Chaotic and pathological families. So usually when we talk about pathological families, it's where there is single parent, either because more than death, it's more like separated or divorced parents. The child bear the consequences of all this. Lack of close relationships and attachments. Nobody to love the child in the early days of life. Then social isolation, especially again in early childhood and adolescence. So these are all the psychological factors more to do with child and adolescent phase during the development of an individual. Social and cultural factors, which religion we belong to, what moral values we are brought up with, our subcultures, the social structures, in what kind of society we live in, and gender specific factors. So in certain cultures, certain things to be done by males only, certain things to be done by females only. And this kind of upbringing is also known to have an influence or a role in the development of certain personality disorders. So usually how do these present to us like psychiatrists? Either during a stressful situation as aggression. Again, stressful situation, they may come as anxiety and depression to us. Substance abuse, to overcome this conflicts in the mind, they may indulge in substance abuse. Deliberate self-harm, what we call as suicide attempts, harming self without an intent to die. So that suicidal intent is not there. They do a suicidal attempt without an intent to die, deliberately harming self. Sometimes they present as eating disorders, binge eating, eating too much, like again and again without having a control on your eating pattern. Indulging in vomiting, purging by using purgatives. So all these eating problems also. So these are the ways these people present to us. No one comes to me saying, I have personality disorder problem, please correct me. It's usually they'll come whenever they have a breakdown situation. Something is gone really wrong in their life. They are not able to tolerate the stress anymore. Their sleep, appetite affected. That's when they come to us. Prevalence, if you see, it's quite common. Lifetime prevalence in the general population is as high as 10%. That is 1 in every 10 individual will be having this. Primary care patient setting, if you see the PHCs which are there, it's as high as 20 to 30%. Especially they very commonly see substance abuse coming in, or they'll be seeing them as deliberate self-harm. PHC medical officers will very, very commonly see them coming with overdosing tablets, slashing the wrist. And as I told you clearly, it will be without an intent to die. It's not a depressive episode. It's a self-harm attempt, okay? So let's just break this monotony which is going on before I discuss individual personality disorders. Can we just revise what were the 3 Ps that we discussed among these problem makers, the personality disorders? Can you please launch the quiz, the last quiz for the day? Okay, again, I think the options, okay, anyways, you just go ahead. There's something wrong in entering the questions. So what I have put there and what is there in the slide is totally different. However, you can go ahead and some of them have already lost track. From 60, we've come down to 40 voting. Come on. Last 10 seconds. Okay, not bad. We reached 50. Come on. I think you can end the poll, Vicky. So sorry about this. I think the options have not been entered wrong. So it's A, B, C, all are right. But these are the options that actually I had given. I don't know why there was an error in them entering it. Sorry about that. So the answer is A actually among this. But if you see the poll, it is A, B, C, which all three are right. Okay? Pathological, pervasive, persistent are the three P's that you need to remember. So in one instance, if somebody behaves like that, we don't take it as personality disorder person. Like for example, one day I might have a quarrel or an interpersonal relationship problem in my office, fight with my colleague, be very abusive, go back home. But if I've not done it again and again, I've not done it with every other person in my office, we do not conclude it as personality disorders. Though this is what you need to understand. If somebody behaves like this repeatedly in multiple such situations and is a problem maker always, that is where we think of this diagnosis. Okay, so just let's go ahead with the presentation now. So coming to the grouping of personality disorders, so we have group that is clusters A, B, and C. Based on the commonality among their symptoms, we have grouped it as A, B, and C. So in the A, we have A group is what we call as odd and eccentric. You might have commonly heard people using the term eccentric very loosely, but this is the group which is odd and eccentric. So in this, we have the paranoid personality, schizoid personality, schizotypal. So we'll discuss each one of this little later. Then we have the cluster B. In this, we have antisocial, borderline, histrionic, narcissistic. So this group of people can be called as dramatic people in one word. Okay. The third one is cluster C. This group of people are those who are anxious. So anxious avoidant personality, dependent personality, obsessive compulsive personality disorder. So this is the broad grouping of various types of personality disorders. So now let's start first with the cluster A. So in cluster A, we have odd and eccentric people. So in that first one is paranoid. As the word suggests, and all of you know, suspicious people and argumentative people. However, no delusions or hallucinations just by the word paranoia here. Okay, so we're not talking about paranoid schizophrenia here. We are talking about only paranoid personality disorders. So they will be very suspicious. They will never believe anybody easily. They are always very argumentative. The second one is schizoid. Those people who are withdrawn and very reserved, more to themselves. Schizotypal are those people who have very eccentric thinking and behavior. They behave very unusually and their beliefs are very different from those of others. Okay, so let's see these cluster A one by one. So the first one is paranoid personality disorders. These are those people who are suspicious, mistrustful, easily किसी को भी believe नहीं करते. They are very vigilant. Okay, something going wrong, something going wrong. Every situation they try to overthink. They are preoccupied with being exploited. Somebody will do some harm to me or my family, or being betrayed by others. They do not want to get betrayed. So they are overcautious people. Some of the problems here is hostility, irritability, avoidance, and anxiety can occur secondary to these beliefs. Though directly they are not anxious, but because they tend to be have these suspicious beliefs, they may develop secondary anxiety. And they may become sometimes irritable and hostile towards others. They may avoid certain people and certain situations. And they usually, because of their mistrustful behavior, it causes others to act in an overly cautious and even deceptive way. Okay, so there are secondary consequences that are happening here which need to be taken care of. So it's very difficult to live with such paranoid personality disorder. Especially the problem happens when it is between a couple. When the wife starts suspecting the husband and starts questioning in every situation. So when it is with people living in the same family, this becomes a even bigger problem. Whereas if it is more in the context of outsiders, then it is not seen that much as a problem. But however, they are not very popular people in the society. Not others usually don't like such people, and they are problem makers in being suspicious and questioning others more commonly. Second one is the schizoid personality disorder. Profound defect in the individual's ability to form personal relationships or to respond to others in an emotionally meaningful way. So they are not able to form emotional bonds They are not ready to get close to people, and they are not very sociable people. They are usually indifferent, aloof. They remain detached from the society. And even if you praise them or not, it doesn't make any difference. Even if you criticize them, it won't make a difference. And they do not react to any feelings that are expressed by others. So others' feelings don't matter to them, nor do they express their feeling towards others. So this is what is schizoid personality disorder. Next, we have the schizotypal personality disorder. So by the term here, idiosyncratic, it means totally out of the blue or little indifferent. So their speech pattern as well as their beliefs, and they also have paranoid tendencies, and they have a lot of illusions. They start, whatever things are unreal, they start believing them. Unusual appearance, if you see their appearance also, it's quite indifferent. There's a lot of inappropriate effect seen in them and a lot of social anxiety. They usually do not tend to mix easily with others, and in public places they're little scared to come in front of the other people. And these are the people who are having the risk of developing schizophrenia. So it's a pre-morbid, that is before developing schizophrenia, one of the risk factor for, so this runs in families. So that is why there is a genetic factor for schizophrenia as well. Okay. So next we come to the second group, that is the cluster B. Those people who are dramatic, emotional, erratic, and antisocial. So these all characterize the cluster B. So the defining feature here is pervasive disregard for and violation of the rights of others. There is one rule for them and one rule for the other people. There is no uniform rules. They should be the center of attraction. Other people don't matter much for them. First them, then the others. This is how they are. It's probably because of their upbringing. This begins right in childhood. Must meet three of the following criteria for reaching the cluster B diagnosis: violation of rights of others, non-conformity to the rules and regulations, callous attitude, that is not bothered about consequences of anything, quite deceitful, do not mind being cunning and cheating others, quite irresponsible, impulsivity, that is they suddenly come up with some new decisions, quite aggressive and reckless. So these are some of the common characteristics. So if we specifically see antisocial in this, these are the children who are having conduct disorder during childhood. If not picked up and corrected early, they grow into developing antisocial personality disorder. So in movies, you see the villains, or in your area, whom we call as gundas, okay, rowdies. They are all the people who belong to this group, okay. So they are socially irresponsible. They will not take care of their family or anybody for that matter, not of their wife, not of their children, not of their parents. They are very exploitative. They will try to take advantage of any situation. Guiltless behavior. If you see them, even if they go and kill somebody and come, they don't feel guilty of their actions. They engage in deception and manipulation of others for personal gain. They'll be ready to cheat anybody for any extent. You need to be very careful with this group of people. They fail to abide by the law. If you see on the road, they will skip signals. They'll not stop where they're required to stop. They'll overspeed. The wheeling that you see in young adults, they're all the group of people who belong to this group. They will not be able to stay consistent in employment, and there also they'll cause problems to others or steal things from their office and get into trouble with the law in the office. And they develop but they do develop they're not able to get into proper relationships, and they lack remorse. That is one big problem with them. They don't feel guilty or take corrective actions to improve their self. Okay, so this is the group of people we call as antisocial personality disorder. There is very, very high intake of substance, especially alcoholism, tobacco use in this group of people. Next is the borderline personality disorder. Pattern of intense chaotic relationship with fluctuating and extreme attitude towards others, getting very clingy, frequent breakups, multiple relationships, multiple partners. If a partner leaves, they feel deceived. They do extreme steps of harming self. Lot of self-destructive behaviors, very unstable. Emotionally, they are very unstable, very impulsive. They do not have a clear sense of their own identity. They go in search of identity and engage in extreme steps like this to gain attention. Attention-seeking behaviors are very common in them. There may be a lot of suicide attempts and self-mutilating behavior. If you see their wrists, examine their hands, you will see a lot of suicidal cuts which have healed. So a lot of these kind of marks seen on their hands, burn marks, all these things may be seen. And some of you who have logged in today, if you're doctors, these are the people who will come to your emergency midnight and bother you. You will not be able to establish a clear intent to die. It's not with an intent to die. It's just an attention-seeking behavior, just to get attention of others. They have usually a chaotic, unstable life, frequent disappointments and rejection seen in their life. Their mood is very labile. They get angry very easily and upset very easily. And in crisis here also, they indulge in substance use. Sometimes they even have a transient psychotic breakdown. When they are very, very upset, they may have a brief psychotic episode in terms of hearing some voices or becoming very delusional, all these. Self-mutilating behavior is something which is very, very characteristic of this group. And this is what brings them to medical attention for help. Next is a histrionic group. Attention-seeking again, but little different from the previous one. So let's see how. Very self-dramatizing people, very seductive, manipulative. They want to stand out in a group, very exhibitionistic. They do a lot of things for others to see, not for their emotional needs to be met. They have very shallow emotions, labile, vain, and they are very demanding. Okay, so these are some of the characteristics of what we call as histrionic personality. So if you see some movies, you'll be able to see this kind of behaviors very commonly. And then how is this different from borderline personality? That emotional instability and self-mutilating behavior is what is characteristic there. Here it is more of attention-seeking, meaning they won't do things to harm themselves. Here they will attempt to stand out in a crowd, being noticed by others. So they want more of attention in that way. That's how this is different from the previous one. Next, let's see the narcissistic personality. So by the word narcissism, it means that it is self-loving. Okay, so they are egocentric, meaning they are focused towards their own needs. Very grandiose people who think very high about themselves. They crave admiring attention and praise from others to an extent where it's illogical or it's not possible or it's too much and you're fed up with that. And they place excessive emphasis on displaying the accoutrements of beauty, power, fame, wealth, everything. So they may be having it, but they want to be very showful of that and gain attention through that. They use relationship to meet their own selfish needs with little consideration for the needs of the other person. As I told you, they are very, very self-loving. It's first them and then others for them. They feel entitled to special rights, attention, and privileges and considerations. So it's like it works like set of rules for them and one set of rules for others. So this is what causes problems for people around them. So these are the narcissistic personality disorders. So cluster B was like very, very dramatic, more of filmy. What are usually stories, isi se banta hai. If you see the latest movies, like a lot of stories in this angle and a lot of psychological movies happening of late, and they use these themes only to gain attention of people to make it more dramatic, because this whole cluster of people with these personality disorders are the people who are very, very dramatic. Now, the last part of the presentation, that is cluster C personality, the last type, anxious and fearful disorders. So avoidant personality, they are extremely sensitive to criticism and disapproval, avoidance of intimacy. So there are people who are very scared to do anything. Very, very scared from the beginning. If you ask them, they'll come to the doctor in terms of breakdown. And if you ask them, कब से आपको anxiety है? मेरा बचपन से ही मैं anxious ही हूँ, doctor. This is the kind of replies they give. The second group, dependent personality. They want constant reassurance. Even for small decisions, they can't take on their own. They're dependent on somebody else. They want to ask others, कि मैं ठीक कर रहा हूँ नहीं या नहीं. They seek advice and direction from others. So very, very dependent. So if you see in Indian society, in villages, it's usually the females who are more homebound tend to automatically develop this dependent personality traits, if not disorder. Obsessive compulsive personality, inflexible people, want perfection, want even others to do things their way only. But here you will not see OC symptoms. This is not OCD. It is different from obsessive compulsive disorder. repeated hand washing, repeated checking of the door, that's a different thing. That's a disorder. Whereas here it's obsessive compulsive personality, need to do things perfectly, and they expect people working with them also to do things like that only. So sticking to rules and need for perfection is very, very striking in them. Okay, and if that is not happening, they develop anxiety. If the people don't do things their way, they feel anxious. So avoidant personality, so those who are inhibited, introverted, and show anxious behavior, they have very low self-esteem. They are very anxious to do anything. They are very sensitive to rejection. Socially, they feel very awkward. There's a lot of timidity, shyness in them. The social discomfort is very high, and they feel that in the public, they may feel embarrassed, or they may suddenly act foolish, and they may be mocked at. Okay, so they hesitate to go and stand out in the public. Dependent personality, excessive reliance on others. So they allow others to take important decisions for themselves. And if they are not with people, they feel helpless, especially when they are alone. And they subjugate needs to those of others. They compromise on their own needs, and they tolerate mistreatment. They do not understand that they are being treated ill by the others. People take advantage of such people, and they are not self-assertive. They don't know to say no when they don't want to do something. They oblige with the others. And it is not uncommon for such a patient to be living with a controlling, domineering, or overprotective person. So if you see their childhood or adolescent, they probably, if you see in a couple, the wife or the husband being more dominant, then the other person becomes this dependent personality. Or if parents are overprotective of children and they have been brought up in that way throughout their child and adolescence, then it is very common for the child to develop this dependent personality when they go into adulthood. Obsessive personality disorder. As I told you, this is not OCD. You should be able to clearly differentiate this from OCD. Perfectionist people, very, very disciplined, go by rules. Behavior is very rigid. They are always very formal. Here again, no emotional role in them. And usually they are more work driven, and sorry about that, they have excessive tendency to take control of themselves as well as others. So where do these personality disorders develop commonly? If there is a family history of personality disorder, as I told, there is a genetic component. If there is verbal, physical, or sexual abuse during childhood, unstable or chaotic family life, pathological families, as I told, especially one parent divorced, parents separated, or early death of a parent with single parent taking care of all the responsibilities. Okay, so these are the places where it is more common. And how do we assess this personality? One is obviously by history taking and talking to the patients. We have a couple of diagnostic interviews which have been made ready by clinical psychologists by running a lot of studies and everything. And one of the commonly used one is IPD, which we use clinically, International Personality Disorder Examination, where we have first a screening scale, and whatever comes in the screening scale, then we assess in detail also using a detailed questionnaire. That's how we do the IPDE. Then we have a couple of projective tests. So someone may not be very open about their personality disorder discussion. Then we have such indirect ways to assess how their mind thinks. So such projective tests, how their mind projects in such a situation. So in that one is a thematic apperception test, where we give various images of people and settings, and we see how the person projects her personality or her circumstances in that picture. So as they speak about the picture, the people in that picture, you can understand the way they think. The other one is the ink blot test. So just ink blots are put, and there are these patterns. There are standard patterns made and kept by psychologists. There are 10 such blots which are given to the patient, and the client has to tell what he sees in these images. For example, I have put one example there, you can see in the slide. So the responses are recorded, and through these responses, it is possible for the clinical psychologist to identify personality disorders. Okay, so such tests are used. Then we have other things like draw a person test, house tree person tests. So the way they draw, like if especially during adolescent, if somebody draws, if they draw a broken family picture, then it shows that they've had a very bad childhood. That's why they've developed such kind of personality. So we are able to analyze people's personality through these various tests. So how do we assess clinically? usually based on the presenting problems with which they come to us. Then we go into the details of their childhood history and experiences, check for any severe illness, abuse, or behavioral disturbances during childhood, how they react in various life events meaning death of a family member or marriage, how they have taken their marriage, how they have taken a new childbirth in the family. So each situation is analyzed and their reactions to such life events is analyzed. Then violent outbursts or episodes are evaluated in detail by checking for their precipitating factors and what are the current symptoms. Risk-taking behaviors are analyzed. Relationship issues, whether the person has had stable relationship or unstable, frequently changing relationships, very clingy relationships, these history are noted. And whether they are in a marriage or whether they are still not able to commit to a marriage, all these details are noted. Then physical disorders also need to be asked for. As I told you, there can be some organic personality changes like following head injury, epilepsy, substance misuse. Long-term psychiatric illness also can cause enduring personality changes. Then also we need to assess comorbid physical or mental disorders. Okay. So this is the assessment that we do. And if you see some examples I've given how patient present to us. So if you see, bipolar is more common in cluster B and C. Cluster C are the people who present to us with anxiety disorders. So like this, there are some common presentations by how they come to us. And on analyzing backward, we see that they have personality disorders. Then there are problems that have happened during their childhood and adolescence, which has made them prone for this personality disorder. And now they are coming to us with psychiatric disorders. So this is the pattern in which things evolve. So now how do we treat this personality disorder? So we do not treat all personality disorders. A lot of them are there in the society on their own. Okay. So whenever they come, like for example, I have seen a lot of antisocial personality disorders when they have gotten admitted with me with alcohol abuse or for detoxification of alcohol related problems, or whether they've come with a head injury because of severe alcohol intake. In the intoxication phase, they had an head injury. After they were treated for their head injury, their alcohol problem was identified and they were referred. And especially if they have antisocial personality along, they will never acknowledge it as a problem. They will never want to leave that substance. So they are very, very difficult patients to deal with. Okay. And they will never feel what they're doing is wrong. Even that accident, if we tell them, see, this accident happened because of your alcohol intoxication, no, they will not agree with you. So it's very, very difficult to treat these personality disorders. So it's usually a team approach. So I would want all of you to look out for these in your daily basis. So a lot of medical officers have also joined whom I know. So day-to-day basis, you may see them presenting with various other problems, health-related issues, medical problems. Then you can identify these problems and refer to a psychiatrist whenever a need arises. Personality disorders are usually chronic and sometimes they present only in some times of crisis. They will be a long-term patient requiring long-term treatment. It is not that easy. So the treating team requires the family doctor or a primary care doctor in that local area to be involved, a psychiatrist, psychotherapist, pharmacist, family members, social workers. So all these people together only will be able to help such individuals. So treatment options that we provide, there is no drug as such which can correct personality disorders. But what has brought them to us? Suppose it's borderline personality, now developed the episode of depression. They have come with a depressive episode. We can treat the depression. So the presenting problems may be treatable, but the personality disorder, there is no FDA approved drug which can treat this. Psychotherapy is the main way to treat personality disorder. The discussion about what kind of psychotherapy is done for what is beyond the scope of today's lecture. It will take a lot of time to discuss all those things, so I have not included it in today's topic. Sometimes they come when there is a self-harm attempt or when there is a crisis of some sort is where they come for hospitalization. Otherwise, usually we do not simply admit personality disorders. So ABC to target in pharmacotherapy, where we require to treat is affective component. Like if they come with a depressive episode, dysphoria, mood swings, doctor, I'm having very bad mood swings, I'm not able to tolerate it. That's where we consider pharmacotherapy. Behavioral problems like severe anger outbursts, or they come with a self-harm attempt or impulsivity, aggression towards family members. That's where we need to use pharmacotherapy briefly. And if they have brief psychotic episodes, as I told you, very paranoid ideas coming in their mind, perceptual anomalies, some brief hallucinations or imageries coming in their mind, we may have to consider short-term psychotherapy. But pharmacotherapy is not the main line of treatment. There is no medicines that can be given for long-term to treat all these personality disorders. It's mainly behavioral therapy. Psychotherapy, talk to the patient, analyze, bring an insight to their problems, and request them to change in variety of ways. So some of the drugs which are used are antidepressants, antipsychotics, mood stabilizers like lithium and anticonvulsants. Some of these based on what the problems above are. I see Shazia raising your hand. Ma'am, is it by mistake or you have a query? Okay, there's no response. We'll go ahead and give her a chance towards the end. I'm almost finishing. So if at all they need to be hospitalized, sometimes if it is a suicidal attempt, it may be a 24-hour inpatient care. Sometimes it may be a partial or day hospitalization just to, if they have overdosed, to just give them a gastric wash or a stomach wash to remove those medicines from their body. So maybe a brief hospitalization only. Usually it is indicated when there is harm to self or harm to others, or whenever there has been suicidal threats or attempts. Residential treatment, a supportive place to live. So sometimes, these antisocial personality disorders, if they're causing too much problems, family are not able to take care of them, they are sent for residential care, what we call as rehabilitation centers. Might be because of their secondary substance use, which is identified and then referred, and they are kept in such rehab centers to make them more productive, to make them reflect on their lives and modify themselves. So they are kept in such rehab centers. So how can we prevent these personality disorders? It's a huge burden to the society. Nobody, as I told you, they are problem makers. So we have to curtail the number of personality disorders they see. So what is each one of your role in this? Identify those most at risk, such as neglected or abused child. I know a lot of teachers have logged in today. A lot of people dealing with adolescents have logged in today. So you should be able to pick up some child who is very tearful at school, or who is not performing well at school, though you know that child is intelligent, can do better. So identifying this personality issues early in life. Taking steps to control stress, increase the resilience of a child, make that child strong by personality itself, and boost the low self-esteem. If at all you see a child or an adolescent with low self-esteem, do things to boost him up in his early career itself. Appropriate early treatment and sticking with it for long term is the only way to prevent persons from going into personality disorders. So otherwise, we will see increase of these problems in our society. All of these. So with this, I would like to thank the SAGE group for giving me a chance again. Thank you one and all for patiently listening till now. I don't know how much you all understood. If at all there is some case vignettes that you want to discuss, or some questions that you have, something you didn't understand from what I presented, you're open to ask now. I'm not going to read this slide because I've been telling this again and again. So this is just the concluding slide.
Dr. Bhavya, one question.
Yes.
How right is it to tell the client patient that he or she has a personality disorder? Because that is misunderstood and misinterpreted. Usually is what I see.
Okay, very good question. So it depends on what kind of personality disorder that you're seeing. It may be very, very difficult to tell an antisocial person, like, you have ASPD in you, and it's very difficult to tell that because, you know the nature of that individual, it may backfire on you itself. Whereas in some other circumstances, like for example, if you're seeing cluster C, it may be that, your feedback is somewhere they may work on, and you may be able to do some kind of behavioral interventions in them to be more productive in life, to prevent them from developing anxiety disorders, prevent the obsessive compulsive ones to develop the OCD later in life. First of all, the screening of these people is usually when they have already developed a disorder. So if you don't want them to come back with a relapse with the same psychiatric diagnosis again, is where you will have to work with them with their personality, and that cannot be done without giving them an insight into their problem. How you convey is something that you learn over time. You may not be able to directly tell the diagnosis. It's like your rapport with your client. When do you want to convey? Do you think it's the right time to convey? Do you think ASPD person will have a good rapport with you, come back to you for a therapy? No. So certain things are beyond our reach. But wherever you feel things can be changed or modified, brought under control, such people can be helped. It may not be for all. So we cannot generalize about telling personality disorder diagnosis to all your clients, but I'm sure we'll be able to do it at least in a couple of patients. Did I answer your question? I know you also see a lot of personality disorders. So what is, you can probably even share your opinion on this. Mrs. Jayanti, are you there?
Yeah, I do
Yeah.
see a lot of personality disorders. Depending on case-to-case basis, when psychoeducation is required, because at some these people are highly intelligent in many cases, and when psychoeducation is required, I do tell them. But yes, there are cases where I do not reveal the name personality disorder as such.
Yes.
There was a question
Maybe
in
you
the
can
chat
explain the
box.
symptoms of it. May not be the diagnosis.
Yeah.
Just an insight into their problem by at least educating them on the symptoms or how you want to convey. May not be in the first time you see them. Once they rely on you as a therapist and you're ready to help them, once they acknowledge that, that's when you can probably.
Absolutely. In fact, somebody was asking, can it be cured? So I'm of the impression that it can be managed and used instead of harming self or the environment. So
Correct.
personality disorders can be managed is what I feel.
See, it's basically reducing damage to self and society is what we aim at. We cannot change a personality disorder person for life. It's already, as I told you, personality is something which is enduring. Most of the characteristics would have already been sunk into that person. You can't change much. But reduce the damage to self and the society is what we aim at. To reduce the psychiatric consequences with which they come. Somewhere that balance is what we try to get. Pooja, you have a question? Miss Pooja?
Vicky, do you wish to conclude what Madam told or something? Or
Yes, sir, I will conclude the session, sir.
Ma'am,
After
can
the doubts.
personality be changed over a period of time?
As I told you, it is a dynamic concept, but not everything can be changed. We can't make a person totally different person, but certain aspects based on the change in environment with whom that person lives, all that, some change can be brought about, but not into a totally different person. So there is a concept of some enduring patterns also.
Personality can be changed over a period of time or not?
I think your network is not fine. I was answering your question itself right now. Are you able to hear me? Is it Himani who asked this question?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So what I was trying to tell is that
my question is, can personality be changed over the period of time?
That's a very, very broad question. As I told you, it is a very dynamic concept, keeps changing with the new environments that individual face, but not completely. And other thing that you need to know is there are certain organic conditions in the brain, psychiatric illnesses, which can cause enduring personality changes. So it's a very broad question that you have asked. I think I did cover bits by bits of your question in the presentation.
Okay.
Ma'am, sorry to interrupt. Pooja here.
Tell me, Pooja.
Ma'am, actually, जो मेरा younger brother है, he is like the same kind you are telling. जो उसके friends हैं, उससे ज़्यादा double age के friends हैं. और वो भी सारे वो जो एल्कोहलिक हैं उनके साथ वो अल्कोहल भी करता है, जबकि मेरे फैमिली में और कोई नहीं पीता. पापा उसको डांटते हैं, सब डांटते हैं, ओवर स्पीडिंग करता है, जानबूझ के शो ऑफ करता है कि वी आर हैविंग सच लाइफस्टाइल, जो है नहीं. लाइक स्कूल में जाके छोटा था तब से ही बोलता था कि हमारे घर में एसी है, एंड ये सारी चीजें मतलब. और अब इतना रिजिड बिहेवियर हो चुका है कि भाई बुलेट चाहिए तो बुलेट चाहिए. अब जैसे डांटते हैं तो डांट सुन लेता है, सामने नहीं बोलता है, लेकिन उसको गिल्ट नहीं होता उस चीज का.
Can we have your email
मारपीट
ID
करके आ जाएगा, डांट सुन लेगा, लेकिन गिल्ट नहीं होगा. तो उसको कैसे समझाया जाए मैम? एनी
Bhavya ma'am, sorry to interrupt you.
Yes. Tell me.
Can we have your email ID, because we have another session that session.
Yeah, sure.
So that
I think whatever questions I'll just put in the chat. I'll be sending my email ID. You can drop in your question to my mail ID, and you can get back to me with your questions, and I'll definitely ask them. Sorry about cutting short now because of lack of time. Yeah.
Ma'am,
Okay.
please your email ID.
Yes, I have shared it there. You can note it down and email me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Okay. Over to you, Dr. Nilesh.
Thank you so much for such a nice session, ma'am. Thank you so much. Really, it has enlightened all with such a nice people. हमको पता चला कि इतने तरह के लोग हमारे साथ में हैं, so that we can handle them. It will not irritate us or not harm us, na? So अब हमको now we have got an awareness that these are the peoples और हम भी इस ढंग से कैसे बर्ताव कर रहे हैं. So that is the main purpose of your talk that we have got from you. We will be knowing that these types of personalities are there in our society. So at 12 o'clock we will be having another talk. Vicky, can you please take over?
Thank you so much, Bhavya ma'am. Am I audible, sir?
Yeah.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Thank you so much, ma'am. On the behalf of Sage Group and STTP Pharmacy, I would like to thank you for delivering such a great session with this talk. In brief, I would like to conclude the session. I would like to tell our participants that what all teachings we learned today. You told us about the personality, what is it, and the various set of psychological traits which defines our personality. You told us about the neuropsychiatry, the character, temperament, and the cooperativeness. We also learned about the various theories about personality, such as the ancient Indian theory, the Hippocrates theory, the Sheldon, and various others. We also learned about the various types of personality, such as the type A, B, C, D, and also the X, the strengths and weakness associated with each of these kind of personalities, and the various kinds of personality disorders, the rule of 3 Ps. And I hope that all of our participants have really got to learn so much from this session. I'm really grateful to you, ma'am, on the behalf of Sage Group and STTP Pharmacy. It was really a great session. Ma'am, I would like to present before you a token of appreciation in the form of this certificate, ma'am, which is being displayed on the screen. Ma'am, please accept for your efforts. Thank you so much, ma'am, once again for joining us and accepting our invitation. Thank you so much.
Sure. Thank you so much.
Now, moving forward, next session will be conducted 12 p.m. onwards by Mr. Durgesh Pandey, sir. So I request all the participants to please stay connected with us since it's almost time for our next session. We'll just wait for about 5 to 10 minutes and we will start with our session by Mr. Durgesh Pandey, sir. Sir has already joined us. Welcome, sir.
Vicky.
Yes, sir.
So you are the host now?
Sir, आप host हो गए sir.
Okay. मैं ये लाइव स्ट्रीम को इस समय स्टॉप कर रहा हूँ जिससे कि ब्रेक.
Okay, sir. Sir, आप मुझे